birds flying and chirping all around. So
I love it. That's so great. But Alexa O'Rourke, thank you so much for joining us on ROI&U's Career Success Tips podcast and show. We are live streaming to Facebook. So welcome anyone who is just joining in. Normally we don't have like a whole lot of viewers. This is really intended to be a time capsule almost, right? To kind of go back into, I know a lot of students, if you think about back when you were my student at URI, this is a really busy time of year, but that you can go back and all this information is really relevant and stays relevant. But I'm so happy to reconnect with you, and it's been great to do that. We reconnected on LinkedIn not too long ago, but and a bunch of time has passed, right? So tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate it. And as you were saying, I mean, oh my gosh, it's been 9 or 10 years since you were my professor over at University of Rhode Island. And we were reminiscing early about truly, I remember that class, and my internship with you is the start of my career. For sure. I was using and practicing on platforms and mediums that I hadn't before. I was doing some blogging, definitely utilizing Twitter. And if you can imagine now in 2021, it may not seem believable, but really social media was just on the brink when I was in college. I mean, Instagram just barely came out when I was graduating. So it's just totally crazy how business has revolutionized since then. But you definitely, your class and under your guidance opened that door for me. And I'm still using platforms and programs that you introduced me back then. And it is just amazing to see like the whole progression of, where business is and where it's revolutionized and where it's going. So it's been pretty remarkable. And as you said, we connected through LinkedIn, and it's just been just awesome over the last 10 years of just like career development for me and starting a family, but always our practices that we learn in the college campus and beyond stay with us for life, truly.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, and you were mentioning some of the tools that we used in the internship and talked about in the class. Which ones do you find were most relevant?
So the first two that just pop in my mind off the bat. So right now I am the general manager at Jefferson Valley Mall, which is owned by Washington Prime Group. So we like to say Jefferson Valley Mall, AKA the Valley, which is a shopping center that's located in Westchester, New York. And it's my role, my job to completely revolutionize not only Jefferson Valley, but the way that shopping centers and industries are looked at as a whole. I don't think it's any secret that over the last couple of months and years, there's been a lot of news articles on about Amazon and how they're taking over the world, and online shopping and brick and mortar is a thing of the past. And yeah, I think that we all shop on Amazon. I'm going to sit here and tell you that I shop on Amazon too. It's really quite convenient. However, we are physical people, we're physical beings, and we need to be together. We need to be connected. So over the last couple of years, I had been the marketing director at Jefferson Valley, and now I'm the general manager. And some of the tools and platforms that we utilize is 100% Eventbrite. Our goal is to drive foot traffic to the center by connecting the community. I mean, it sounds marketing when you say like, oh, driving foot traffic to the center. It sounds like it's a sales figure, but really it's with intention of uplifting a community and saying, hey, our phones are great and they allow us to, talk on this podcast right here and seem as if we're together in the same room and have a great conversation that others can hear, and how amazing that is that we're there, in the human race, that we can tap into that. But at the same time, we're still going to need to go out to the local coffee shop and sit down and feel the chair. And how much different is dress shopping when you can't actually try it on? Like that, you still need to do that. And, someone's going to go buy a prom dress, like, you want to have a memory around that. Just it's going to be something that arrives in the mail. That's just kind of normal now. So we are human beings, and we utilize Eventbrite and other platforms and programs we use technology to to remind people that we are still human and that we need to get together physically. So that's what we do.
I love that. We use technology to remind people that they're still human and they still need to connect, and they want to connect in person. I think now more so than ever. And, as things get safer, but I feel like with COVID, and maybe you can talk about this a little bit from being the hub of an in-person retail experience, that it seems like the retailers have done a lot to keep people safe.
Absolutely. From the COVID perspective, I mean, the number one thing, take COVID aside, is always customer safety. We want to create an environment where you actually feel safe to leave your home and enter into another center, right? So we want to make sure from every perspective of all five senses that you're feeling as safe and as comfortable as possible. But with COVID, it's just kind of re-emphasized that, okay, we want to make sure that people are visibly seeing the cleaning practices. We want to make sure that there's signage that's saying, okay, this is the last time that this place has been cleaned. You're safe to be here. So it's stuff that we've always done, but now it's more so storytelling that to the customer to ensure that they feel comfortable, which, you could talk about storytelling as another, marketing tactic. And again, I mean, it's just being authentic. I think that's what, if you really are doing marketing, if you're really doing it well, it's just authenticity, really.
Right. Yeah. And it's just a new nuance, right? It's something else to talk about that, but it's really important, I think, in that, in terms of keeping everyone safe as possible and making it a pleasant shopping experience. I know that I feel like we have things figured out now, right? Like we kind of know what to do, and keep the doors open as much as you can, all that good stuff.
Yes.
So cool. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit too, because you're also a mom and a busy mom at that. But tell us a little bit about what your career trajectory is like along with motherhood.
Oh my goodness, what a great question. I'm grateful for it. My husband and I have welcomed our daughter Sage into the world about 9 months ago. And I think at a time with, not only mothers, but just families in general kind of look at their beautiful little babies and say, okay, what do we do next? Do we keep our children at home with us? Do they go into a daycare for socialization, a different change of environment? And then what are our own personal career aspirations and goals? And I love to say that I knew that right off the bat, but I would be joking if I told you that. And really taking one day at a time and watching her grow and talking very openly, having open dialogue and open discussion with my company, with my supervisors, with my teammates, and with my colleagues, and saying, I love being a mom. And I also love and find a huge purpose in my work. And how do we combine both of those things? And I'm very grateful that my company has allowed for that to happen. And my little daughter, is my little assistant, assistant Seiji. But, so she comes along on different, meetings and tours. And what a better way, I feel like, than to raise the next generation to immerse themselves in what it's like to, be around people, learn and show a work ethic and a passion, really. So I'm very grateful for the events that have unfolded and what I'm able to do now. Yeah.
I really love that. And I think it should be more common, and I think will be more common, right? Because of COVID and people working from home. And I think that that's really, it's just part of life, that you shouldn't have to choose between your career and having a family. I think is really important. And I think more businesses, if you want to retain good talent, you're going to have to build that into the sauce. But I imagine that you're pretty busy.
Oh yeah, it's a fine balancing act. And some days it does definitely get challenging, Zoom calls, like some, happening every hour on the hour, and taking care of a 9-month-old who wants to explore and move and crawl. And sometimes she's definitely heard, on the Zoom calls, or it's my turn to chat and she decides that she wants to chat too. And that's where everyone's like super forgiving, right? And they laugh and they say, how's Sadie doing today? And it's not something that we need to hide. We don't need to hide who we are as people and as colleagues. Like, be you, be yourself, and be authentic, and that's how you're going to be received, and show that in your most authenticity is when you can create the most, and be the best you could be for your company or for your career in general. So yeah, like I said, like you said, I hope that is something that will be so much more prevalent in the future, so we can truly learn and grow up with our children and the next generation.
Awesome. So if we can dial back the clock a little bit, do you remember what you were thinking when you decided to sign up for social media strategies class? Because nobody knew me at URI, right? I just showed up on the radar.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So dialing back about 10 years. So like I said earlier, I mean, social media was not, I mean, we dabbled in Facebook here and there, and Twitter was out, of course, but I wasn't, utilizing it to its full capacity nearly until your course. Your course really taught me a lot about social media in general. Now, again, thinking back to the times where people weren't even familiar with what a tweet was. I think that we literally had a whole class about how you could only have like 140 characters in a tweet, which is so funny to like even go back and think about. But truly, like, we had to like retrain our minds and understand this and learn this. And it's funny because I was going through, I know I do not any longer have a Twitter, but I was going through my previous accounts, and I created an account, I think, for your class. And it was very cool. Like I saw a couple different tweets that I did back in the day that was like, okay, URIs, if URI kids or URI family, we want to do better for the environment. Let's decide to like carpool to campus, and I like hashtag something. And I was like, whoa, okay. Like, look at back then, here I go, like trying to affect change for the climate and send out a tweet at the same time. So yeah, I mean, it was definitely nuanced.
It's very forward thinking.
I mean, yeah, it was very forward thinking. I don't even know if I was at a point. I definitely wasn't at a point where I was even bringing a laptop to every class, which is today is definitely unheard of. I was bringing a journal and a pen to a lot of my classes. Sometimes I would bring my laptop, but that's wild to think about now.
Well, to your point, the head of the program told me it was up to me whether or not I would allow laptops in class, and I was like, that we're talking about social media, right? Like, they're going to be on their phones and their laptops the whole class, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, what do we have? Like transparencies, like on a board. Yeah. I don't know. And since I've taught classes, then it's changed, but no, it was really fun because that was the first semester long class that I taught, and I taught a few others since then. But that was really, because everybody was so fresh and into it, like, oh, this is really cutting edge. This is so cool. But yeah, it was fun to get to do. And the framework for it was, here are the principles that you need to know. And then we exercise those principles using LinkedIn, using Twitter, using Facebook. Instagram didn't even exist yet. Definitely not TikTok, not Clubhouse. What else? Messenger. Yeah. Like, Facebook was still a privately held company at the time. So you didn't have to worry about, ads on Facebook. That wasn't even really a thing then. Yeah, it was just interesting times to be able to do that. And did we talk about WordPress too? Must have.
We did talk about WordPress. So I want to say that, so from the class that we took together, that's when we started our one-off internship together. And I was working for you as an intern, and I was using WordPress to do blogging through there. So that was a whole other experience that I had that I'd never had before. So yeah, we definitely did. We dove into WordPress. And now that you said LinkedIn, I want to say that maybe I even created my LinkedIn account through your class. And if I didn't, then I definitely grew it and added to it from the class as well. So yeah, I mean, yeah, to think about that was never even a thing. It's so funny now. It's
well, at least at that point. So it was 10 years ago. So that was 2011, right? Well, I had only been on LinkedIn for a few years myself. So that wasn't very common, I think, for students to be on LinkedIn at all. The other question, so I want to skip ahead a little bit, because was that your senior year? Senior or junior year?
Yeah, that's why I keep going back and forth. It was either my second semester junior year or my senior year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then what
Funny.
happened after you graduated? Let's fill in the in between.
So after I graduated, I love to tell this story. After I graduated, I was dead set on moving into Manhattan and having a very city lifestyle. And I was not going to end up back at my mom's house. And lo and behold, where did I end up? Back at my mom's house in Connecticut.
Yeah, I've had
And
that
just
experience myself.
right. And just like a lot of other students, like really trying to figure out, okay, what's the next path for me? And I never was a huge shopper. I was never a mall person or any, not even a fashion forward, so to speak. So working in the shopping center industry never really thrilled me. But I knew that I had something as it related to PR, communications, and marketing. And there was a job that was posted for a marketing assistant that they needed at the Westchester Mall, which is in White Plains, New York, just outside the city. And I went on an interview there and I met my now lifelong, like fairy godmother, I like to call her, Paula. She was my first boss ever. And I had an amazing interview with her. And I knew before the interview, pretty much 5 minutes into the interview, that I had gotten the job. She took me around the office at the end of the interview and was like, "This is Alexa, she's got the job." Like it was not even like a day that I had to wait. Like I knew I had the job then. And I started off my career at the Westchester shopping center in White Plains, which is very high end, like Neiman's, Nordstrom, Louis Vuitton, Tesla, like all these top retail tenants. And I was in a totally different world and thrown into it and really immersed myself in learning marketing, event planning, and utilizing social platforms to get the word out about what was happening inside the center. So that is the progression. And then I was, promoted, and since then our company had kind of transitioned over, and I now work for a company called Washington Prime Group, and we own about 100 shopping centers across the country. And the whole mindset of Washington Prime Group is that we are immersed in a part of the community. We want to have you feel like you're walking into your second home when you open our doors. And it's because we're not in these giant markets where you may never recognize, that same customer again. Our customers are people that we know on a firsthand basis, and we want to cater to them. So I am, along with a whole team of people and my company in general, is just totally rethinking what retail even means. And really bringing it back down to the community and the essence of gathering of people, which is just natural for humankind. So that's just a very, a long-winded way of saying how I found myself through my career, is because I know what my purpose is. And to add that into anyone that may be listening is just literally tune into your heart. Write down, like, if money was of no object, and if you could be doing anything that in your dream, if you can manifest what that is in your career, what would you be doing? What conversations would you be having? And I realized that once I tuned into my own purpose, everything else kind of fell away. A job description falls away, even your title falls away. Everything doesn't really matter except for your purpose in your heart. And mine is to connect people. And through that, money flows in through that, contracts are done through that, all the business aspects of things flow from that. But just getting really clear at what the inner core is, as what it is your purpose, is the best advice that I can give.
I love it. Yeah. So if 10 years from 10 years from graduating, right? You're now general manager of a huge property with a lot of cash flowing through it. That's pretty awesome.
Yes.
How many people do you have working under you, let's say?
I mean, it's a rough estimate. But I would say, about 20, depending on, I have a core of 7 people. And then those 7 people also have sometimes their own departments, and we have amazing housekeepers that ensure that this shopping center that we were talking about earlier, it's a huge aspect of it, is cleanly. I mean, take COVID away. Is there wrappers on the floor? How do you feel when you're coming in? Is the seat that you're sitting on clean? I mean, that's a whole, energy in itself. So we have amazing housekeepers and security team that make sure that we're safe. So I would say all in all, it's about 20, but I have a core team of about 7 people that are department heads that run everything that you can imagine, from operations to accounting to marketing and business development.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how much, like, what, if you get to choose one of those things to focus on, like, what do you like to do?
Well, my favorite role to play is, let's say, visionary. So I'm trying it's not even I try to get myself into this mindset of, okay, what would I like to see as far as visually when I walk in somewhere? So I like to work with other visionaries, and that's artists, musicians, actors, actresses, to say, okay, like, what can we think outside the box and bring into this space? So we have wild mural work and graffiti art and a whole bunch of things that are photo ops, but also areas for artists to showcase their talent. So my favorite role is definitely visionary, so I can connect with other innovators and inventive thinkers and entrepreneurial minds to say, all right, well, we have a canvas, let's paint, let's create something through it. That's my favorite
That's
role.
so cool. Yeah. And I was just watching this show about these basically talent agents for animals. And there was like a refuge outside LA, and they brought in artists to paint a mural that's specifically designed for people to take selfies in front of, which I thought, like, oh, awesome. Yeah. So those types of things, like creating those experiences for people that they wouldn't get at home.
Well, how relevant is it that we're just talking about this right now? It's merging the two. So yeah, we're creating mural work and photo ops, so you post them to your social media, but you have to physically leave your home to do that. So it's like, we understand that we also definitely in a retail environment, which I don't even love to call it that, in a community center, we need to integrate technology. We need to have things like that, but there's a perfect balance of both. So that's what it is that we're trying to create here. Say, listen, bring your phones, connect, let's do this, but let's kind of do it in person. Let's see what that's like.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I think that's so great. When I think about how many people shopping is a pastime, it was funny because when they shut down the stores, our consultant at school said, yeah, my sister was talking to me, and she's like, what are they doing to us? That's all we have. I just thought that was the funniest thing. Like, just to like escape, be like, okay, I'm gonna go. Yeah. And I'm the same way. Like, I just don't like having to shop with a deadline. Like, if I have to go and make it an experience, it's one thing. But if I have to go and like I need a dress for this award ceremony or something like that, then that's a whole different thing that I find to be more stressful. But I think, yeah, if you're creating those reasons for people to make it fun and recreational, that's fantastic. So I want to dial back to like when you first started as an assistant, and think about what are some tips that you would give to yourself back then, because I think that'd be really helpful if anyone's just graduating now.
Tips to myself back then. So when I look back at myself about 10 years ago, I can tell you that I won't say I'm a totally different person, but I'm definitely transformed and definitely grown a lot. And looking back at how I was very sheltered, very shy, reserved. I was very fearful of people thinking that I was stupid or dumb and not being able to pick up something really quickly. And if I were to go back and tell myself, I would tell myself, it's okay. Where you are is okay, and who you are is okay. And honestly, be in a clear mind so you can absorb and learn more. Because if you're anxious and you're tight and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm nervous, I don't know, then you're not allowing the experience to grow you and move you. But allow for that experience, allow for that feeling of uncomfortability to come up, and say, okay, there's something here that I need to learn and I need to grow from. And, I have, ironically, one of our assistants in the office is also a graduate of URI. And I talk to her a lot. Yeah, she's more of a recent grad. And I talk to her a lot about, this feeling of uncertainty of, oh, should I apply for that job? Or, oh, am I ready for this step yet? Yes, you are. Throw yourself right into it. You will learn more by doing that. You will grow more by doing that. The only voice in your head that is stopping you is you. So don't stop yourself. That's the best advice that I would have, is just don't stop yourself.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's really universal, right? No matter what career you want to go into. But I think also that, if you put your best foot forward, people are going to know that you are interested. And even if you're not ready, they're going to help you along the way, right? Like it's sort of just letting people know, okay, yeah, I'm ready for something more. I'm ready for a next step. And I think about this a lot because I don't know if you know this, but I co-founded a school and I'm the board president of a Montessori school. So
Amazing.
yeah, it's been really good. And my daughter goes there, so it's awesome. But
Oh, that's
we
so cool.
have a group of really experienced teachers, which are amazing. And then we have this really also amazing group of younger teachers who, are just kind of getting the feel of, okay, this is what my career is going to be. Because when they came to us 4 years ago, they didn't really know that, but have stuck with us and really grown and creating those opportunities. But one thing that I'm thinking about is, okay, as the school is growing, how do we keep those pathways open so that they feel like they're still moving forward and they're still progressing in their career? Because if we don't provide that for them, they're going to go someplace else. And
Hmm.
obviously they want to stay with us, but it's just being aware, as a leader, how do you create those pathways and those opportunities? But if you're not in that leadership role yet, to be thinking of how do you indicate that going forward? Okay, hey, I'm ready for something more or ready for a next step. So I think that's great advice.
Yeah. And I mean, the number one thing I would say is, and this applies to, for some reason, this image keeps coming to my mind, is there are always helpers out there, regardless if it's in a career, regardless if it's outside of a career, if it's personal, professional, there are always helpers in the world. And look for the helpers. You'll know who those people are. And don't be afraid to ask them questions of, oh, I see that you're in this position. How did you get there? Like, look through the world through a lens of wonder and curiosity. I'm curious what would
Mhm.
happen if I had that position, or I'm curious to hear about how you got to where you are today. you know um, I think that there's something to be said about a feeling that some of us, all of us, have gotten probably at times, is a feeling of jealousy. So when we look at jealousy, it's like, oh my gosh, that person like has that job and I wish I had that. And it's like, actually, you're inspired by that person. So look at that
Mhm.
person and say, wow, like, how did that person get there? And I'm inspired to do the exact same thing in my own way that they're doing. So use that as fire and fuel to get yourself to get there, be there, surpass that. You don't have to feel small when looking at somebody else and say, oh my gosh, like I'll never get there, or how did they do that, or I'm unsure. It's using that to put in your mind's eye as a benchmarker for you to go to. So look for the
Yeah,
helpers. That's what I would say.
I love it. And are you doing coaching also?
I do coaching,
I
personal
can tell.
coaching
I can
as
tell just by
well.
the language that you use. I mean,
Thank
because it's
you.
really like, wow, you totally have it together. I love it.
I do. I'm very passionate about coaching and personal development. And something that I do currently is I teach monthly journaling and meditation workshops. And that's so important for me to do, not only because it's a gift that I have and I feel like I need to do that for the world, but also it keeps me in balance. I mean, I am a human just like everybody else is, and I have the thinking brain that tells me I'm small sometimes, or I can't do this, or oh, I'm too busy for this, or the chatter happens to me. It happens to everybody. So for me to teach these classes actually puts me in tune and gets me in a state of alignment. It's like, wait a second, I have to be preaching, not preaching. What I'm teaching, I'm living, and vice versa.
Right.
I'm being taught and I'm living it as well. So it goes hand in hand. But yeah, I'm very passionate about helping people awaken their fire, their purpose, awaken the love and light within themselves, because we all have it. We just got to tune it right into it.
Yeah, no, that's so great. And think about what an asset that is to everyone you work with.
it I mean it so I love my team, and they know now that our meetings are anything but conventional. If you were a fly on the wall of our meetings, let's just say I did one every week. We do a team meeting, and of course there's practical, and I put that's in air quotes, practical things that we need to speak about, where this check is, or what's the AR balance, or is this contract out? Do we have the insurance for these people? But then I stop and I say, okay, everyone, the most important thing that we could possibly do is let's all go around and visualize. Let's all go around and visualize. And I would love to hear everyone's story of, let's say in 2 years from today, what is this shopping center going to look like? And then to watch people tap into their imagination and their creativity and say, this is what it's going to look like, and this is what I'm going to hear, and this is what it's going to sound like. And then from there I go,
so cool.
okay, well, how is that going to change your job? Is it going to make your job more challenging? Is it going to make it easier? And how so? So then we start putting ourselves in the future of what it will look like and feel like to be in that space that you're creating, because thought, we're living in a world of thought. Everything that you see has been thought by someone. So our thoughts are very important, and to mind them and to care for them is the most important thing that we can do. So that's something that I really like to do in team meetings is yes, we do logistical things and business things, but you have to leave space for imagination and creativity.
Yeah, because I think everybody needs that release, right? Like, yeah, why am I chasing this person for a check? And it's like the opposite. I find for me personally, because I spend so much time like doing really deep thinking, that the opposite that I like to do is gardening, like in the vegetable garden. And then a lot of times I'm actually listening to audiobooks or like podcasts or what have you, to just sort of lift myself up above the deep thinking, right? Because that's can be really taxing and you need to recharge. So I think that's a really great opportunity for people to think about, okay, what is the bigger picture? How do I fit in? And then you don't get to like an annual review and be like, I don't know that I want to be here, right? You're affirming that constantly. Plus, it sounds really fun. Like people must come up with some crazy stuff.
It is super fun. It's super fun. And also it allows people to feel comfortable and sometimes an uncomfortable place, because they're maybe not used to people asking questions like this, and then sometimes this is one that I love, and now my team has started to love. At the end of every meeting I go, okay, what are you grateful for? We go around the whole table and we say what we're grateful for, because that's the energy and the essence for us to be tapped into in order for us to create and do more, to be tapped into an attitude and an energy of gratitude. So it's so important. And I think that this career and industry is changing in a sense that, listen, it's really not, it's for you to work every night to a certain amount and say, oh my gosh, I'm so productive. I didn't shut my computer down until 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. And like, look at how hard I'm working. That's an old paradigm. Number one importance is your health and your body and what you're doing for yourself, because you cannot be anything if you cannot be that for yourself first. So taking that time to like, right, it's just totally not sustainable, and you can't be your best self, thinking wise. And so, the next piece of advice anyone about to start their career is like, do not put your body and movement and exercise on the back burner, because then you're going to burn out and then you can't produce anything for your company or your business or your career and what you're following. Like, make sure you spend that time to move your body and work out, and that way you can become a clearer thinker. It's so important.
And some sleep.
Sleep, hugely important. Hugely.
Yeah.
I
know it. Yeah. And then what about, I think another piece that's really important is to think about what, where you think things are going as far as expectations of employees. How do you present well to a potential employer? I'm just curious if you have any.
So for me, I'm going to answer this question the only way that I can answer it, which is when I'm looking for a candidate, I'm not looking for, well, it will help for somebody's resume to be clearly organized and obviously have no spelling errors, because that's very important. That's practical. We need to be able to understand who you are, but I'm really not looking at how many hours they've spent in XYZ job or how many hours they spent in XYZ internship. really for me, it's personality. It's tuning in. Are they passionate? Are they passionate about themselves? Really, and like, and how their and how their appearance is not in like in a vain way, but seriously, like how do they show up? Are you glowing? Are you excited to be there, or is it like, oh, okay, like what's your body language showing? So that's the number one thing that I would say is figure out truly what your purpose is, find your passion, and how does that align with the job that you're applying to or the job that you are interviewing for. And if it doesn't align, don't go on the interview. It'll save everybody's time. It'll really save everyone's time. Like truly like meditate on it and look at, okay, is this the right fit from a company's perspective? What's their mission? What's their values? And what's the message that they have out there in the world? Is that in alignment with who you are? And then get honed in on the job description. Is that in alignment with who you are and what your best, skill sets are? And if you feel like it's not a good fit, then listen to your intuition and don't even apply for the job. Like apply if you're serious and you feel passionate about the position. That'll shine through.
Yeah, no, I think that's really great advice and really fantastic because, in 10 years time, you've gone from a URI student who was nervous, right? To, doing an internship with me and being able to present a portfolio. I think that's another thing that I would say is having some type of portfolio actually takes a lot of the pressure off, because when people ask you questions, you can say, oh, and look at this, this is what I did. I did these blogs. I did these events on Eventbrite, which, all the interns and the ROI students will be doing, so that you have portfolio pieces. And then you're not talking about abstract, right? Because the person who you're interviewing with can see that, they can see what you did, but also that you can tap into the network that I've built, like, from Newport Interactive Marketing, having been to those events. And, we're in our 11th year. So you were like right at the beginning. But yeah, it's really exciting and such a great community, and now we're all virtual. So you have to come to an NIM event sometime.
I would love to. Really, I would absolutely love to. For sure. Yeah. But can I add in one other thing?
Yeah.
A thank you note. I will say I've conducted a lot of interviews through the years, and over the last couple of the last year or so for internship position or an actual, internship position is an actual position, but for any position, absolutely follow up with a thank you. That goes a long, long way. And sometimes if someone doesn't take that extra step to send a thank you note, which has been kind of common. So for all you fellow graduates out there, definitely go above and beyond with a thank you note, at least via email. Even better if it's a handwritten note or something that sets yourself apart, because it really does take a lot of time from the manager's perspective who's interviewing you. They've looked at your resume, they've showed enough and cared enough and put enough energy in to have you in front of them. And it does take a lot out of the day to conduct interviews. So doing a thank you note is a hugely important. I just think in life in general, always do thank you notes, regardless if it's professional or business or personal.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Yeah, at least an email. But I think too, yes. So you've gone from your URI student to now you manage a property that has, what would you say? Are you allowed to say how much money goes through that property annually?
It's a pretty penny, and we definitely are like the number one tax provider for the town in which the center is located. So it's a great definitely a financially viable center, and very important to this community, not only from the tax benefits and the financial benefits, but everything from these townspeople's children got their first jobs here. They remember having their first dates here. They remember their hair sprayed back in the 80s, where they were meeting a bunch of celebrities at my center, until to what it is today. So it is definitely a very special place to the Northern Westchester community.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah. And when you think about it, like you started out in marketing and now you've grown to running the big show. I love it. Congratulations. That's so fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And doing it while being a mom.
You know what? Look out. Right?
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so
Thank
much,
you so much,
Alexa. We
Suzanne.
will wrap up and hopefully we'll see you at a noon soon.
I would love to. I can't wait to meet everybody.